This is a call for an uprising. Welcome to today's show. Let's all hope that this is the story that starts waking up conservatives to this rigged system, that this is not a democracy, this is not a republic anymore, and what they're trying to bring about is a technocracy. Because the left and the right have been working together for the last 10 years or so to dismantle the infrastructure of the United States government from the top to the bottom. Everything you've seen on the news, all of the nonsense that has gaslit, that has manipulated people, that has gotten people to hate their own neighbor based on political ideology, it's all been deliberate. It is a psychological operation to bring the infrastructure down, to make the people demand change, to make people hate the opposite political party so much so that they would rather see a technocracy in place than the opposite political party, because that's how much they loathe and detest them. And the technocracy is a communist digital infrastructure where these people will have total control over every single thing we do, every single thing we say, our bank accounts, our movements, how often we can drive, what we're allowed to eat. It all comes down to behavioral control. And I've been saying it for years with Donald Trump. And now maybe people will start seeing the signs, because Donald Trump has partnered with Palantir to bring about this AI governance infrastructure that is what they've been talking about at the World Economic Forum and the United Nations for the last 20 years or so. And people have become so desensitized to hearing words like compiling data that they don't realize what these people are actually doing with the data that they're gathering. They're building digital profiles on all of us. And the laws and the rules and the things you're allowed to say are going to change, much like China. And of course, they're going to bring in a social credit score. But as things continue to change with what hate speech is and what isn't hate speech, you will be criminalized for the things you do and say online. So Donald Trump has partnered with Palantir. And this is going to be a nightmare for all conservatives and all Democrats. And this should be something that unites people together against technology, because the only way to push back here, the only way for an actual revolution is to give the middle finger to tech, start getting back to the basics and being less dependent on technology, because the more dependent we are on technology, the more the control they're going to get. And all of a sudden, these people have full-on control because people are addicted to their technology, and they know that, and they knew that they would become that over the last 15 or 20 years, that they have gotten people obsessed with their phones and addicted to searching and looking for every possible answer to every question they have on the internet. So here is the story with Palantir, and pay attention to the stuff I talk about, including the kill chain, later in the video. But here's the news clip for anyone out there that's wondering who Palantir is and what they're doing.
The Trump administration wants your data, but why? The White House is reportedly teaming up with controversial tech powerhouse Palantir, the data analysis and technology firm co-founded by Trump megadonor Peter Thiel. The purpose? To build a federal database tracking millions of Americans. Supporters say it'll stop fraud and boost efficiency. Critics call it a surveillance nightmare. But what's really happening, and why is this new system sparking so much outrage?
Waste, fraud, and abuse.
It's unacceptable to President Trump to allow rampant waste, fraud, and abuse.
Billions and billions and billions of dollars of fraud and waste.
In case you hadn't heard, President Trump is on a quest to quash waste, fraud, and abuse. And his administration expands its footprint across the federal government. All roads run through the tech giant Palantir. A March executive order pushes all federal agencies to share their data, effectively giving Palantir the keys to the kingdom. At least 4 major agencies are already on board: the IRS, Homeland Security, Health and Human Services, and the Social Security Administration. Each channeling sensitive data like medical claims, bank accounts, even immigration records into one central database.
On its face, it looks like the government is trying to save money in terms of operations, not doing the same thing over and over again. When you look a little deeper, or perhaps the implications or the risk is putting all the information together at one time going to create a greater risk for the American public.
The goal? catch fraud, spot threats before they escalate, and streamline how government works. The pitch is compelling: fewer wasted tax dollars, faster services, and smarter law enforcement. But Palantir, co-founded by Trump ally Peter Thiel, would have unprecedented access to Americans' personal data. That has some employees walking away. The fears go beyond privacy. Critics say the system could be weaponized, used to go after political opponents or vulnerable communities. And once the data's centralized, it's nearly impossible to undo, and it could make it more difficult to protect.
In this case, now, instead of something being segmented, now potentially an entire mass database of virtually the entire U.S. population could be at risk.
Palantir's contracts are already being renewed into next year, but federal agencies have until September to report their data sharing compliance.
So really what you saw there is a company that is working with the military on military contracts, government contracts, who is providing the government with every possible detail about every single civilian in America. And they're doing it all around the earth, as I'll show you momentarily. But remember, this is all about bringing in AI governance. The motto of the World Economic Forum is AI Governance Alliance. Donald Trump on day one talked about bringing in a $500 billion AI infrastructure. And this is the beast system. This is what it looks like. This is when social credit scores come in and digital IDs come in. They are doing all of these psyops out in the news to make you want these things. All conservatives care about right now is border control and border safety, because the government's been putting out psyops and false flags about people crossing the border and about detaining people, who's allowed to be here and who's not. The digital ID will put an end to all of that, and they're making you want that digital ID, just like they told you in 2020 and 2021 during COVID that they wanted a digital passport and everybody rejected it. Well, they pivoted. They pivoted to a new PSYOP, which is the border PSYOP, which is illegals crossing the border and making people say, you know what, it's not safe here anymore. Maybe we do need a digital ID to track all the people coming in and out. So Palantir, let's talk about them. Palantir, it is named based off of the translucent stones that were used for communication and intelligence gathering in the Lord of the Rings books and movies. Now, I've never seen the Lord of the Rings. I'd rather get neutered than sit through something like that. But again, it is named after the seeing stones from the Lord of the Rings, where users were able to see things from far away or even look into the past. And we know, of course, things like the Neuralink are trademarking words like telepathy and telekinesis. We know that the government has dabbled in remote viewing, in fact, mastered remote viewing, but these are things they want you to think are works of fiction. So Palantir is owned by Peter Thiel. So Peter Thiel is known most notoriously for being one of the co-creators of PayPal, along with Elon Musk. And Palantir is in bed with the CIA, the NSA, the Air Force, the Marine Corps. All forms of our government operate through Palantir. And it reminds me of the movie that just came out, at least the trailer that I saw for this movie, called Mountainhead, where they're showing you how these tech billionaires are manipulating and controlling all of the world events. These people are people that need to be identified as people who are bringing about this globalist new world order, this technocracy control system, this digital grid that they're trying to bring forth. These people are hiding in the shadows. We're all looking constantly at the Klaus Schwabs of the world, but we need to start looking at the people like Peter Thiel and the guy I'll eventually get into in this video, Alex Karp, who is as wicked as they get. But guess who else is in bed with Palantir? Well, Elon Musk is also in bed with Palantir. And over the last couple of days, with all of the stage drama, which is another distraction that they're doing with Donald Trump and Elon Musk has been tweeting out that he has a new political vision for America called the American Party, which is really technocracy in disguise. The people have spoken. A new political party is needed in America to represent the 80% in the middle. And there aren't 80% in the middle. We all know that many of these sheeple are sucked into the left-right paradigm. And it's essential to pull them out, to make them realize that they're creating all of this noise and all of these psyops to keep us divided. It's the oldest motto in the book, divide and conquer. And that's the purpose that the left-right paradigm serves. They're tearing down the government because they're keeping the people divided and creating psyops to make the people want change. And it's all about a technocracy. Now, I want to play this clip of Peter Thiel talking, where he talks about how technology is an incredible alternative to politics. And people are going to think that's a good idea and a good thing, because obviously politics are a nightmare. Obviously, the politicians have gone out of their way over the last couple of years to make everyone hate all politicians on either side of the aisle for the most part. That's been done by design so that people eventually say, you know what? Let's get rid of politics. These people are corrupt, and let's go through technology, because technology doesn't see sides. Technology just sees right down the middle, they'll convince you. But of course, the technology is going to enslave you. It's going to give them master control over everything. And here's Peter Thiel as well, as you can hear the disdain in his voice about Christianity. Because as I'll get into eventually in the video, Palantir is involved with everything going on over in Israel. And if you think the Palestinians, the Muslims are the only ones that are going to be targeted, think again, because they despise Christians even more. And this will give them ample opportunity to target Christians when they're monitoring everything they're saying, every email they're sending, anything in regards to the synagogue of Satan or anything else that they consider hate speech. So here he is talking about these multiple ideologies.
The basic idea was that we could never win an election on getting certain things because we were in such a small minority. But maybe you could actually unilaterally change the world without having to constantly convince people and beg people and plead with people who are never going to agree with you through a technological means. And this is where I think technology is this incredible alternative to politics.
There certainly is a sense in which the sort of materialist, scientific, technological utopia seems quite at odds with a Christian, Judeo-Christian worldview. But I think there are some commonalities that it's worth also stressing. And I think one very important commonality is that both have this view that the future will look very different from the present or the past, and this is certainly the view that's presented in science fiction. It's presented in the New Jerusalem is not, you're not going back to the Garden of Eden, and so there sort of is a sense that the future looks very different from the past. I think that we are living in a society that I think is people who are Christian often like to complain that it's sort of vaguely anti-Christian in different ways. I would submit that it is at least as anti-scientific and anti-technological. And so if you look at the movies that Hollywood makes, it would be hard-pressed to come up with a single movie in which science and technology are portrayed in a positive light. And they basically show science and technology that kills people, it doesn't work, and you have a menu of dystopias you can choose from. The future will look like Avatar or the Terminator or the Matrix or Elysium. And it's sort of, if you look at the Gravity movie that came out a year ago, you basically want to go back on a muddy island and never go into outer space. And so I think this notion that we're living this extraordinary, and I think Hollywood, it's sort of, as it often does, it both sort of creates and reflects the popular consensus that science and technology are dangerous things that should be stopped. And so I come at it from the perspective that we have somehow lost our way. We no longer believe in a future that looks very different from the present. I think it's an interesting intellectual history question why we've lost this hope in a better future. But I do think it's a very severe loss, because there are an awful lot of problems that science and technology could help solve, but they will not be solved if we do not try to work at them.
So again, it shouldn't surprise anybody that Peter Thiel packs the fudge, because most of these guys in Silicon Valley do. And if you know about the people that pack the fudge, well, you know what their preferences are in the bedroom. So Peter Thiel has hired Alex Karp as the CEO of Palantir. They go way back with one another. And Alex Karp is connected to the Bilderberg Group. He's connected to the World Economic Forum. He's actually one of the most wicked people you'll ever hear speak. And you could just tell by looking at Alex Karp that something's off, right? Not just because of his crazy hair. And you can see his cover of Forbes magazine, Meet Big Brother, because these are the people behind the curtain who are responsible for the mass censorship that's been going on, creating the algorithms that are censoring all of us, and trying to bring in behavioral control, as you'll hear him say in some of these clips. And you can see his profile even on the World Economic Forum's website. And of course, Alex Karp is never married, conveniently, right? A lot of these guys don't marry. A lot of these guys have a very bizarre lifestyle, and it doesn't surprise anybody out there when they read that he's actually, the religion that he follows is called the Kabbalah. And I'll leave it at that. Palantir stands with Israel, one of the posts that they recently put in the newspaper. You could just look at these guys and you know they're involved in disturbing activities. This guy, Alex Karp, is just as bad as anybody I've discussed, including Bill Gates. Listen to some of the stuff he says that even sound a lot like what Larry Fink says. Because remember, all of the stuff they're trying to do is about behavioral control. And people hear behavioral control and they're like, well, maybe we do need to control people's behavior. But you don't understand what the behavioral control is. If I told you behavioral control is, oh, well, we're going to stop criminals from committing crimes, or we're going to rehabilitate them, everyone will go, oh, maybe that's a good idea. Maybe we need to change their behavior because they're bad people. They look at everyday citizens as bad people. If you're non-compliant to their enslavement grid, you're considered a bad person with bad behavior. If you have any religious beliefs, you're considered a bad person with bad behavior. If you question the government at all, even if the government comes to your front door and punch you in the nuts, you're considered a bad person with bad behavior. They are trying to mold and manipulate people through the digital realm into behaving the way that they want. And the way that they want is for you to bend over for them, to give up your lifestyle, to change the way you eat, to change the way you travel, to change the way you communicate, to change your religious beliefs into what they want it to be, because they believe that they can bring in this utopian hell through technology. And it's an enslavement grid. Listen to this complete psychopath. And that's how you know these guys are psychopaths, when they're constantly bragging about how their goal is to control the world's behavior, and how on top of those things, you'll hear him even bragging about not only working with the government, but censoring what they consider to be the far right. Now, obviously, I don't believe in the far right, the far left, or the left. But any censorship of speech is how you begin behavioral control, because people will be fearful to post their thoughts on the internet. People will be fearful to go out in their day-to-day lives and speak about some of the issues going on for fear that they will be criminalized. And that's what they want to do. They want to criminalize you based on your thoughts and your own individuality. They're going to remove these things. Here is this psychopath talking about what their plans are with Palantir.
What we do is we use what legal scholars call predicate-based research. So we would look at you, and then we would go out and say, oh, there's lots of different things in your life that may be indicative of someone involved in bad behavior.
Then we were asked if we were willing to supply our product philanthropically, basically for free. And I was very in favor of this, because our primary mission is, in fact, to set a global standard for the world for behavior.
Well, we built PG, which single-handedly stopped the rise of the far right in Europe. We built Foundry, which was used to distribute the COVID vaccine and saved millions of lives globally.
The central question, in my view, of civil liberties is how, it's not if the government has data, because let's assume the government has as much data as a health insurance company. It's how is that data being used? Is it being used in a way that's lawful? Meaning, do they have the right to use it? And is it being migrated into places it's not allowed to be used? We allow the enforcement of rules that the government ought to enforce. And by the way, my experience is they want to enforce, or at very least know they need to enforce. And if it's framed in that way, then you can have what is the ultimate Silicon Valley solution.
So that's the frightening reality that they're trying to create. And 𝚅𝚒𝙳𝙃, the CTO of Palantir, also on the record of talking about how they want to use Palantir as the U.S. government's central operating system.
Turning to government, we continue to advance our mission of becoming the U.S. government's central operating system as we extend our footprint across defense, healthcare, and civilian agencies.
So this is AI governance. That's what it looks like. Everything done through artificial intelligence. And they're moving everybody into the world, the digital realm on purpose. People constantly forget that part of COVID and what they wanted to accomplish was transitioning people into doing everything online. So people who would have never FaceTimed before then had to FaceTime because you weren't allowed to leave your home and go and see your mom and dad or go and see grandma on Christmas. You weren't allowed to do that anymore. So people had to learn how to FaceTime. People began working remotely. Some people who have never done that in the past. They forced people on the internet to do everything online. It was pretty much a training session for people to learn how to do stuff online, education online, and eventually that's the goal, to get everything online, because if everything's online, then these psychopaths have control over everything. And Palantir often refers to this thing called the kill chain. The kill chain. This is who Donald Trump has made a deal with, a company that has a kill chain. The kill chain is a military process of identifying, tracking, and neutralizing threats. Palantir's AI power systems, particularly the Maven smart system and Gotham, are integrated into the process to assist with tasks such as target identification, real-time decision-making, target and effector pairing, streamlined decision-making, okay? Common person hears that and they go, well, what do I care? They're talking about another military, right? That's out there. They're talking about targeting a military, Hamas or someone like that. They're talking about us. That's who. We hear him talk about controlling human beings' behavior. He's not talking about some rogue military, some militia group. They're talking about me and you. Target identification, which means your thoughts and the things that you say online, using drones and satellites and sensors. That's also part of Donald Trump's Golden Dome psyop that they're bringing in. I call it a psyop because it has nothing to do with a missile defense system. It has to do with bringing in a surveillance state. And I broke that down in previous videos. If you haven't seen them and you're new to my channel, make sure you go and check this out. They are bringing in Skynet. They even brag on their website about connecting the supply chain to the kill chain. And they talk about each part of the sustainment enterprise being integrated at Palantir, having censorship, shooter, supplier, sustainer. Censor. That means us, not just censoring our free speech, but criminalizing the things that we say. And here is this psychopath not only bragging about the kill switch, but you'll hear a protester screaming at him about how Palantir has been working with Mossad and the IDF and has been responsible for the murdering of many, many thousands, if not millions, we don't know the actual number, of civilians over in Palestine. And this guy doesn't even blink. This guy shows no emotion because the synagogue of Satan has no emotion.
Have created the system which you call kill chain.
Privately. Publicly, the lawyers have some innocuous something like tech for the amelioration of unwanted blah, blah, blah. Some term we're supposed to use.
Okay, let's...
for me, it's the kill chain.
Kill chain sounds good.
And obviously, Carp is loving it.
Disruption, in the end of the day, exposes things that aren't working. There'll be ups and downs. There's a revolution. Some people can get their heads cut off. It's like we're expecting to see really unexpected things and to win.
That a few people get wealthy, and if you said platitudes that were obviously stupid, you could...
You're getting wealthy off of killing Palestinians. With Palantir kills Palestinians with their AI and technology.
Oh.
You're killing my family in Palestine.
Yeah. And,
How do you sleep at night?
Well, if
Shame
you...
on you.
Do you want to hear my answer?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. So, I think the primary cause of death to Palestinians... Okay, do you want to hear the answer, or do you want to yell? Well, you don't want to hear an answer? Obviously. So the primary source of death in Palestine is the fact that Hamas has realized that there are millions and millions of useful idiots that will...
Can we get security up there?
Mostly terrorists, that's true. She believes I'm evil. I believe she's an unwitting product of an evil force, Hamas. That she unwittingly is part of their strategy, that she is a product. And the most important thing, arguably, in the book, or what Palantir, or what you could learn, is do not become a product of an ideology that sounds sensible.
There is no empathy for any of us when it comes to these people. And like I said earlier, Palantir, Peter Thiel, this guy, Alex Karp, they're in bed with the Mossad. They're in bed with the IDF, which is really just two different heads of the same snake. And don't forget this clip that I've used multiple times, where during the pager explosion attacks of last year, that we had 60 Minutes put out a piece about the Mossad and how the world is their stage, how they own the news stations, how they manipulate the news, they create the news, they manufacture the news, and they manufacture your perspective. Because it sounds a lot like what Alex Karp is talking about, creating a fictitious world to manipulate your behavior with.
How did you convince Hezbollah to buy this?
Obviously, they didn't know that they were buying it from Israel.
Who did they buy it from?
We have an incredible array of possibilities of creating foreign companies that have no way being traced back to Israel. We create a pretend world. We are a global production company. We write the screenplay. We're the directors. We're the producers. We're the main actors. The world is our stage.
So for anyone out there that sees this stuff and doesn't look at these people as the new enemy of the state, and they're not necessarily new. Everybody knows of Peter Thiel and his connection to PayPal and Elon Musk. And Alex Karp is not a household name, but he needs to become one. People need to start talking about this guy because he's got more quotes than that are just as vicious. He's right up there with Yuval Harari about changing humanity, how humanity is useless and pointless, how they're going to create wars and they're going to create conflict because it's going to benefit their algorithm and their ability to collect data on you based on your reactions to the fake events that they actually create. These people should be rounded up and arrested, but they won't be because everybody looks at the enemy that they're told to look at. So Democrats just stare at Donald Trump, and conservatives and Christians and liberal and conservatives just stare at Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and some of these other guys like Chuck Schumer. And they just continue to fight with one another over ideologies that shouldn't even be discussed. They've got everybody in a deep psychosis. And the thing most people who listen to my channel should be concerned about is eventually this is coming for Christianity. Donald Trump has signed into law these anti-Semite bills. These bills are going to target Christians. Most of these people are under such deception with the Synagogue of Satan, the Balfour Declaration, who actually owns the land over there, which is the Rothschilds, and what is coming. They think the Noahide laws and the stuff that Trump is going to pass is going to benefit Christians. It is to censor Christians and remove the Bible as a book of hate speech, not just Sodom and Gomorrah. The people accused of killing Jesus Christ in the Bible. Who's accused? The Pharisees? What do they identify as? They consider that hate speech. It's on the ADL's website, that Christians are a threat and Christians can be considered anti-Semite. These people hate Christians more than they hate anybody. And we can look at everything going on with Muslims in Palestine. It's coming for us as well. In a technocracy, your religion is the technology. The altar you worship at is artificial intelligence. That's what the goal is. And it's the same thing as communism. It sounds familiar, right? There's no religion in communism. It's the removal of religion. Well, they plan on doing it through technology, monitoring, tracking everything, and criminalizing you. They're not just building profiles on all of us. They're building profiles and target lists to come after civilians that they're going to manipulate the public into thinking are the new modern day terrorists. Soon Christians will be viewed as terrorists. And Democrats out there will agree because, well, they're out there protesting Planned Parenthood and they're out there protesting pride parades. And eventually Christians will be persecuted, as we're told in prophecy. So these guys need to be on your radar. But if you're somebody out there listening, I hope you would share this with some of the MAGA supporters. It's hard for them to come out of the psychosis, especially since the government staged assassination attempts, which should have woke people up because they're the worst false flags that I've seen. They're not even false flags, they're psyops. There's no bullet fired at Donald Trump. You think that guy outsmarted the Secret Service and got on top of a building? Some kid who looks like he couldn't even tie his own shoes. You all know what the word is I'm thinking that I can't say, of course, because it's now considered hate speech, but it starts with an R and ends with an id, right? We all know that word. Great word. Banned word, but great word. Donald Trump was never, ever considered for an assassination attempt. They knew by martyring him with all the stories about how the Democrats were trying to prosecute him, that it would build a following that would be unpenetratable to get into their heads, to wake them up to the fact that they're working together, especially once Trump got put in power. They said, look, when Trump gets in power, he's going to start implementing all the New World Order ideologies, AI governance, you name it, Golden Dome, which is a surveillance state. I've gone through the litany of things, removing pennies out of circulation, moving to digital currency, digital identifications. This is all what the New World Order looks like. It runs through artificial intelligence. Trump is bringing it in, and they're distracting you with stories like Trump and Musk are in a fight, and Trump's playing golf at Mar-a-Lago, and this and that. And people need to come out of it before it's too late, because once they establish this, once they bring in all of this technology in control of our day-to-day lives through the government, we're all done. You're done for. Your bank account, goodbye. Your money's going to be drawn out. The world in America will look like what it looks like in China. You'll have a social credit score. And it doesn't matter if you're a Democrat or Republican. Whoever's in power, think about that. If they have total control, through really technocracy tyranny is what it is, they'll have total control over everything. So if you're a Democrat, imagine Donald Trump with that power. You go, oh, I don't want that. Okay. And if you're a conservative, imagine they put Obama or somebody back in power. They'd say, I don't want that. Nobody should want this. But if you stay stuck in the left-right paradigm, this is what the result is going to be. And we need to start looking at these tech companies. We need to start looking at these tech individuals. Like I mentioned earlier, that movie Mountainhead. They're bragging about it. They probably funded the movie. And so let's make a movie about how all these big tech CEOs, the guys who created these big companies like Facebook, are causing all the world wars and all the chaos so they can bring in a technocracy. And that's what the plan is, to bring in a technocracy, a digital control grid. And Trump is bringing it in. And how people can't see it is beyond me. They just hear in one ear, they go, he doesn't like Trump. I don't like him. He must be a Democrat. No, it's not real. Your vote doesn't count. Didn't you hear what I said earlier? Haven't you heard all of us screaming for years? There's no draining of the swamp. There's no release of your CIA Epstein files. It's a work. It's sabotage that's occurring, and they're sabotaging the infrastructure to bring in their AI governance, which is technocracy. I thank everybody for being here. I hope you're all doing well. God bless you and your families as always.
I'm getting attacked by contractors working for the NSA. They broadcast things into my head like, does your chest hurt now, Andy? Does your chest hurt now, Andy? As I can feel the pains in my chest. Okay, once again, they claim to be working for the NSA.